Hey everybody, I'm Leon Thomas here again with Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. You're here for checking in a lodging DEI chat. Hey Miranda, how are you?
I'm great, Leon. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing okay now. It's been a
Okay.
rough couple of weeks with that cold, right? But I'm feeling good now, ready to go and back on the racquetball court later today.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
goodness. Already. Well, I know that you don't feel 100%, but you look 100% and you sound 100%.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it. What's happening new with you? Anything hot, new macaroni and cheese recipes? I mean, anything new going on?
I don't know that I have anything new. Everything, oh my goodness. I think that I've told you before about the Cub Scout situation. My
Yeah.
daughters are in Cub Scouts, and I promised my husband, I'll take care of it. I'll do all the things. You don't have to go camping. You don't have to do anything. Well, their big camping trip was last weekend, and I was out of town for work. So he had to take them. And
Oh,
one of the adventures in camping included a canoe ride where he had to take my two small children in a canoe. And as soon as they set him off on the canoe, they said, just keep your hands out of the water because of all the alligators.
what?
I'm surprised he didn't have a heart attack.
Oh no. What?
So, yeah.
Oh, that's a classic right there. You told him he won't have to do anything. And now, did you just happen to schedule to go out of town once you saw the camping schedule, or
I'm not
how did
saying
that all work?
I'm not saying that I would not have, but it just so happened that the universe smiled upon me.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Now, what could be worse than don't put your hands out because of the alligators? What could
Tipping the canoe over?
Yes, yes, that's right. That's right. Oh, wow. Interesting stuff. So, here we are. This is episode
Seven?
season 2, episode
Something?
let's go with 7. But as we were talking before the show, this is our first repeat guest.
Yes! And what better repeat guest to have for season 2 than Dr. Stefanie Benjamin? And before you bring her on, I just want to read to you from her biography. She says, my research agenda lies within the nexus of social equity and critical tourism scholarship, exploring marginalized populations' lived experiences and counter narratives. And I think that that just is the epitome of why we even started this podcast in the first place.
Mhm. I like it. I like it. Let's bring Stephanie on into the show. Hey, Stephanie, how are you?
Hey everyone, I'm holding in there. Just like you, Leon, I'm recovering from a cold, so it's that
Mm,
season. But I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
just like Leon, you look 100%.
It's the lighting, it really it does a lady good now.
Right on. Thanks for being with us. Yeah, we appreciate you being. Now, let's see. You're where at what university?
I'm at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville,
Hmm,
Tennessee, and I'm
okay.
in the Department of Retail, Hospitality, and Tourism Management.
Hmm. How's football going this year?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person.
Hmm.
I think from my last understanding, we won against it was a Texas A&M, like the last 60 seconds or something of the game.
Okay.
Um, I I don't think that there's a game this weekend. I'm so bad. I don't know.
I think Leon's just looking for an opportunity to talk about his Ravens.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Anything to talk about the Ravens because the Orioles just didn't do anything in the playoffs. So I need something to talk about. So I
Gotcha.
appreciate it. But let's not even go down the sports avenue. let's talk about some other things here. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Stephanie, so thank you again for being here. As we mentioned earlier, you're our first repeat guest. So we had you on in season 1. And
Very honored. Thank you.
since then, you have been doing some really cool things. Can you share with our listeners any of the amazing initiatives that you have going on?
Sure. Yeah. Over the past year, we've continued. My colleague at San Diego State University, Dr. Alana Delet, she and I have continued to work with Evita Robinson with the Nomadness Travel Tribe. And this past couple weeks, I guess at this point, they held their Nomadness Festival in Louisville, Kentucky. And this festival is meant for Black and folks of color and their allies. And topics range from traveling abroad with your kiddos to understanding the points for credit cards to help you get to those travel destinations. And so a lot of really great dialogue is generated. But there, Alana and myself really launched our new initiative, which is called CODE, and it stands for Collaborating on Dialogue and Equity. And we're really excited about this movement. It's more of a consulting type of initiative. And we are helping folks within not only academia, but more so within industry, within business, going beyond travel and tourism as well. How do we have those difficult dialogues? How do we come together as a community that's authentic and not performative? And really digging deeper into who we are as humans and our intersectional identities, and understanding that it's actually bringing us together more than pulling us apart. And so we're really excited about this. We use more of a data-driven approach. So we use both insider and outsider methods, ranging from internal to external surveys to focus groups, and then bringing those strategies synthesizing and analyzing that data to really bring forth some tangible ways to use those numbers and use that qualitative information to really help businesses and destinations and academic units understand what are some of their pain points and what can we do to really help y'all move forward in just some more cohesive and holistic and hopefully centering some human aspect and humorous ways about it as well.
I think that's incredible. I think that I'm a big fan of all the work that you're doing, and I think that this is just an amazing next step. For anyone who missed it, I'm sure that I asked you this in season 1, but for anyone who happened to miss it and is just now joining, can you share with us what brought you to this work?
Sure. Yeah. My background, like so many of us as academics, ranges within the different disciplines. And really, it started during my master's program at East Carolina University, Go Pirates, in our sustainable tourism program. And there I met Dr. Derek Alderman, who is in human geography. And I really started to understand how power and politics, race, gender, disability, all that intersects into how we as humans, as tourists, as travelers, interpret and understand the world around us. And from that master's program, I eventually wound up in the Foundations of Education of Inquiry at the University of South Carolina. And I was able to be mentored by incredible scholars there. One was Dr. Michelle Bryan, and really understanding how race and ethnicity truly impacts everything that we do in our lives. And my dissertation focused around counter narratives, so the non-traditional type of stories that we don't traditionally hear when it comes to heritage tourism sites, and specifically at plantation museums. And so I focused on this performance called Let Them Be Heard. And these were different stories and lived experiences of either descendants of enslaved folks or their family members during, it was the WPA project, and hearing and reliving and reenacting those specific narratives at these plantation sites was so powerful and an incredible emotional tool to really help folks to understand the nuance and the complexities of what freedom meant to these former enslaved individuals. So that's where it really started for me at that point. And then it just continued to build from there.
Excellent.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're watching Checking In, a Lodging DEI chat. I'm Leon Thomas with co-host Miranda Kitterlin-Lynch, and our guest today is Dr. Stefanie Benjamin. Thank you, Stefanie, again for being with us. You were talking about the plantations and information around that, and something interesting that happened to me just a few days ago. I have an uncle who will be 100 years old in a few weeks. And by the way, he's not the oldest person in the family. We have another aunt who's 105. So
Wow.
Miranda, you and I will be doing the show till I'm like 200 and something, I guess. But we'll
You're gonna have to find another co-host. I'll be dead at like 67.
But one of the things that my cousins and I discovered was that my uncle grew up in an area called Smithtown, and it's a small part of Granville County, North Carolina, and that was the Smith plantation is where my relatives, my forefathers and mothers grew up on, and I didn't know about that until just a few days ago. And he was sharing some of the stories of things that happened in the 1920s and 1930s and stories that he heard even beyond that. And so I started thinking that even as a black person, many of us don't know the heritage and history of our culture and of our families. And how cool would it be if we could get that information out and have these heritage and historical tours as a part of a historical vacation?
Absolutely. And I know some scholars too who are working on more oral histories, exactly what you just shared, and really bringing in that, again, bringing humanness to what we do, right? And for especially with the interpretation of the enslaved communities, so many of the enslaved folks don't have faces, don't have names, don't have their stories heard, because a lot of the excuses that were made from plantation managers at these sites, or the managers of plantation sites, is that like, well, we just don't have that record because enslaved folks couldn't read or write. Okay, but like just like what you're sharing right now, like there are stories, there are experiences, and there is material that can absolutely contribute toward this narrative. And we're also seeing that push from Generation Z, from millennials, who are wanting more of this raw, non-romanticized version of our U.S. past. And so that's really been pushing the changing of narratives at these sites as well.
hmm And then you take that and you figure that those that work at hotels, let's say that there are hotels near Granville County, which there are several, that when folks say what's there to do or what's in the area, that person working the front desk or manager could say, here's a tour you would be interested in, right? So it all pieces together. If we could make that happen, I'm excited about that. Go ahead, Miranda.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking, so I grew up in a small town in Louisiana, a small tourist town, and there was a week where people would come and visit plantations and historical homes. And they had people dress up in historical outfits, and it was not the right history. It was not the correct history. I don't think that I've even learned the correct history until I was in my late 30s, just because the information was not available. Stefanie, as someone who is an expert in this area, what are some ways that we can learn the correct version of history?
That's a great question. And especially in states that here in the US that are really trying to ensure that that history is not told, right? And this has been a problem for so long. So in order to seek out what we call counter narratives, or those who are not from the dominant ideology or the dominant narrative, dominant narrative, you can explore our website, which is tourismreset.com, which stands for Race, Ethnicity, Social Equity in Tourism. And there you'll find we have a couple different books that, and I'm happy to share more of those titles because I can't remember it offhand right now, but I will share that. And we also have articles that have been written around plantation specific histories that are focusing on enslaved narratives. So I'll be happy to share that with you all. And it's sbanjam1 at utk.edu. But I'm happy to help you all out and share more in that sense. But there are books, there are articles out there that I'll be happy to share with y'all as a footnote to really help y'all have just a better understanding as to the complex and distorted ways that we as a country and as also teachers tend to tell one-sided narrative. And it's not comfortable, it's not easy, but this is our history for us to have these conversations. And there's a lot of great children books that are coming out now too. And again, I can't think of them directly off the top of my head, but to help have these conversations with their kiddos. And it starts in the home, and it starts just at the dinner table, and having these conversations that kind of help us just to unpack what's going on.
Yeah, definitely share those titles with me. I'd love to incorporate them into our daughter's library. So awesome. So is there anything that you would advise for us as people who are trying to learn, trying to do the right thing, right? What's the number one advice that you would have for us who are trying to move the needle, even within the home, at the dinner table?
Yeah. Honestly, it's also age dependent. And I tend to disagree with my dad on this. I don't have kiddos of my own, but I have nephews, and I do feel like these difficult conversations are needed at a younger age. Kids are able to comprehend and digest a lot more than we think that they can. And, for so many kiddos as well, we give them this, it's literally a binary world. It's just black and white, good and bad. And there's just so much gray involved. And, sharing with at the dinner table or in your homes, just taking little tidbits of information of histories. And like, for instance, like Christopher Columbus and Christopher Columbus Day. All right, there's a certain narrative that has always been shared of who Christopher Columbus was. And there's a lot of complexities as to what he actually did and the land that he found. And, talking about even the indigenous tribe or the indigenous community that is on, or that occupied the land in which we are physically on right now. That could be a starting point. Like, let's go figure out, all right, who were these people that were on our land? What was their story? What was their experience? And just acknowledging and understanding that this land in which we call our home was not something that was that white folks just found, right? That we just kind of came across. Like, no, this was occupied land already. And opening up a conversation there. And I think also humanizing it in a way where these were also families, these were also children that were involved within this indigenous communities. And I'm trying to draw that line to really understand that there's a lot more nuances involved within the stories that we tell. Another thing, and I know I'm on a tangent here, stay with me, but also bringing in food. And so that's something that I feel like can be a really wonderful um, way for us to have conversations, whether it be through a family, whether it be friends, but hosting an actual, and this is what we're trying to do with Speakeasy to Truth, is hosting an actual dinner or hosting an actual potluck of sorts, and really highlighting the cultural and heritage culinary histories of certain communities and certain marginalized groups that don't necessarily get to be understood or talked about. And I relate this back to the late Anthony Bourdain and his episode on Palestine and Israel, and really understanding the humanness of our food and the history of our culture and our religion through food, and what a powerful tool that is to bring us together, to understand that we all are human, but we see and feel and experience life very differently, but food does bring us together in that sense. I know that was a very long roundabout way.
No, it was all very
Perfect.
valuable and very well put. No, yeah. So, Leon, I don't think we can ask our signature questions for this episode because Stephanie's already answered them.
I know, but we can do a twist on it. We can do kind of a twist. So Remington Remington Hotel Management, I saw on a recent social media post that kind of coincides with what you were talking about, Stephanie. They have national, or in their company, historic, what do they call it? Hispanic heritage is what they refer to it as. And they identified a week that at each of their hotels that they would have their Hispanic and Latin employees bring in food and describe the food and talk some about their culture. And I saw that post and I shared it out because that's something that needs to happen, is that we learn more about each other through food, right? And they talked about that, and I thought that was really cool. And something else that I saw from another management company, and I shared the post and they asked me not to share the post, and then I'm not going to say what their name is here, but it was a really cool thing that they did. What they did was, on their breakfast, they had varying types of ethnic foods on their breakfast. And they talked about it, and they had employees there to talk to guests about that. And I thought that was a pretty cool thing. So that leads me into our question. A kind of a twist on the signature question. Steph, can you make the little signature thing? Can you do like a signature? Yeah, Miranda signature. And all together on three. Ready? The signature question. The signature question is, Stephanie, away from traditional American food, what's your favorite ethnic food? What do you like? Now, not the type, but I mean, give me the dish. What's your favorite one?
Ooh. Oh, that's a hard question.
Well, that's what we do here. We have hard
Yeah,
questions. So that's what we do.
yeah. You know, I will say what I love is my mom makes matzo brie, and it is a Jewish um uh comfort food, if you will, but it's matzah, so it's unleavened bread that usually tastes pretty crappy on its own, unless you put like, some cream cheese or some jelly or jam or something on it. But you essentially fry it. So you dip it in water, you then dry it, and then you mix it with eggs, and then you fry it in a frying pan, and you serve it with maple syrup. And that's one of my favorite. It brings warmth to my belly. And it's something that I wouldn't mind having right now. That or matzo ball soup. Either one of them those are two ethnic foods that bring some joy to my life.
I
Okay,
love it. It
right
sounds like
on.
a version of French toast almost.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Huh,
Yeah,
that sounds delicious.
yeah, yeah. And different folks make it different ways, but that's how my mom made it for me. And yeah, it's kind of craving that right now. So yeah, that's that would be my favorite dish.
I love that.
And to think about that too in terms of what we're talking about, I would also encourage folks to explore in their own cities what are some different heritage or food tours that they could take that are hosted by marginalized identities. And I'm from Miami, Florida. That's where I'm originally from. And they have some great food tours in Overtown and in Lemon City. And so those are different ways to explore other communities and understand their heritage and culture and lived experiences through food. So that's something to think about too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I know that you've already given us the answer to my signature question, which is what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to our listeners today, right now, to go out and do good?
Yeah, like these are some like really tough questions. To do good. Okay. That's broad, but I like it. Um honestly, it sounds very simple, but just check in on your friends and family. Whether that be a text, whether that be a handwritten note. I love getting handwritten letters from friends in the mail, an email. Just letting folks know that you see them, you love them, and just having that little, just forwarding that love. I think is something that we all really need right now to let us know that we're loved and um, yeah, just send that little nugget. That would be my to do good aspect right now.
I love that. Thank you so much for all of the information, for sharing your knowledge and your expertise with us and our listeners. We appreciate you.
I appreciate y'all and the work that you're doing. Honestly, it is not easy. It continues to get more difficult literally every day.
Yeah.
But I'll be sure to send y'all the different links and resources that I have, and just continue to keep up that good necessary trouble.
Great.
Awesome. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
being
Thank
with
you for
us.
having me. Thank you.
Folks, you just watched another episode of Checking In, a lodging DEI chat with our guest, Stefanie Benjamin. Be sure to check us out on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and everywhere. And tell everybody about Checking In, a lodging DEI chat. We'll see you next time. Take care.